Welcome back to another video. My name is Hunter, and today we're going to be predicting and previewing Week 16 of the NFL. There is a lot on the line this week because there's only 3 weeks to go, and for many teams, their season relies on games like this. But before we get into it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because I'm trying to hit 300 by New Year's, and once we hit 250, I'm going to be bringing some subscribers on to talk football, but that won't happen until we hit 250, so go ahead, subscribe, and let's get into it. We are going to be going left to right, so let's start with the big Thursday night divisional matchup between Denver and LA. Between the 6 and 7 in the AFC, and this is a very big game. Denver can clinch a spot in the playoffs for the first time in 9 seasons with a win, while LA will get much closer and could potentially clinch this weekend if they get some help on Sunday. So both these teams are coming in with winning records, obviously. They're in playoff spots. Denver's coming in playing really well. Their defense is getting a lot of turnovers, and they're scoring a bunch, while LA is coming in on a bit of a losing slide as they've lost 3 out of their last 4, and they desperately need this win so that this season doesn't continue to spiral. So what is it going to take to win this game? I think it's going to come down to offense because both these defenses are playing pretty well this season, and I'm actually going to take Denver. I trust Denver's offense a bit more considering the way they've been playing. I think Bo Nix is that guy this season, and I think Denver is going to have their celebrations tonight by getting into the playoffs. Next, we have 2 games that are being played on Saturday. You have Houston at Kansas City and Pittsburgh at Baltimore, and both these games are huge for the seeding in the AFC. Beginning with Houston at Kansas City, this is a big game. Kansas City is on the verge of clinching a 1 seed with a win and a Buffalo loss. We'll get to Buffalo in a bit. While Houston has just clinched the AFC South, and they look to move up to potentially a 3 or a 2 seed so they can secure multiple home games potentially. But Kansas City is coming off a 21-7 win over the Browns where Mahomes got hurt, but it seems like he's going to go. He has an ankle sprain, so that mobility will be a bit limited, but he is going to play, and that is Kansas City's biggest benefit. Their defense has been playing outstanding the last couple of games, and they're definitely going to be on watch against a Houston offense that has been at sometimes inconsistent this year. As for Houston's offense, Nico Collins has been on a streak since he came back, and CJ Stroud is obviously has all the skill to play big in big games. So who am I going to take in this one? And I'm actually going to go with the shock Houston to win here. And I think it comes down to that Houston's pass rush, which is pretty well, is going to get to Mahomes a bunch because Mahomes is not going to be able to escape the pocket as much. And I think that's going to be enough for Houston's offense to outscore a Kansas City offense that at times has looked inconsistent, and Houston will take this game. As for Pittsburgh and Baltimore, this is a big game as Pittsburgh will be on the way to clinching the AFC North with a win, while Baltimore will make it a very tight race to watch over the last 2 weeks with a win. Pittsburgh will once again be without George Pickens, who is out injured again, while Baltimore is seemingly coming off one of their better games in the season, beating the Giants 35-14, and I'm going to roll with that high-powered Baltimore offense to get their payback against Pittsburgh and tie this division up at 10-5 because Pittsburgh's offense has been pretty garbage without George Pickens, and I don't think their offense is going to do enough to beat the rushing attack of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Now let's get into some of the Sunday games, beginning with Atlanta hosting the New York Giants. And Atlanta is making a quarterback change. They now have Michael Penix in, and I covered that in a short that I made, so go watch that if you want to know more about that. But Atlanta, they are playing some of the biggest games of their season over the stretch of the last 3 games, and Atlanta is going to need to take this game that they definitely should take, and I'm going to have them take this one because the Giants have looked like they've only wanted to lose, and they're going to have a quarterback likely in Tim Boyle that has never won any of his starts in the NFL, and this is New York's method of tanking. Atlanta, I think Penix is going to bring some fire to that offense that they have not seen since Kirk Cousins started throwing multiple interceptions a game, and I think Atlanta is going to move to 8-7. Next, Cleveland at Cincinnati, and this game is huge for Cincinnati because a loss will put them out of the playoffs, while a win will keep their tiny chances alive. Another quarterback change in this game as Cleveland goes from Jameis Winston to Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and looking for some change and maybe some development from DTR in the last couple games of this season. I'm going to take Cincinnati, though. They are still alive, and I think they're going to take this game against a 3-11 Cleveland team that just hasn't been able to win games. And Cincinnati's offense has been on another level. I would expect Jamar Chase to have another big day and Joe Burrow to throw for multiple touchdowns in this game. Next up, we have Detroit at Chicago, and I know how injured this Detroit team is. I know they have 17 players on injured reserve. They lost David Montgomery. They lost their first game in a while, but this Detroit team is simply just too good to lose to Chicago. Chicago has been incompetent for most of the season, coaching-wise. Their offense has been inconsistent, and they've just had tons of issues surrounding that team. They've lost 8 in a row. And Detroit, their offense, led by Jared Goff, is going to get them the win in this one, and they'll move to 13-2 and stay on track for the 1 seed. It's interesting. I'm talking about Tennessee at Indianapolis, where the Colts are in the same position the Bengals are in, that they're 6-8 and fighting for their playoff lives, and losing to a 3-11 team would confirm that they will be out of the playoffs this season. And I think Indianapolis is going to take this one because, first of all, Tennessee, they have quarterback issues. They have turnover issues. They go back to Mason Rudolph this week, and I don't think Indianapolis is losing to Mason Rudolph, as well as Indianapolis is a team that's coming off a really bad loss where they made some terrible plays. I think that's going to fire them up, and this Indianapolis team will turn it around and move to 7-8 and stay alive. Next, Rams at the Jets, and LA is on a roll. They lead the division now, and they're visiting MetLife Stadium against the Jets team that won their first game in a long time. So 2 teams coming off wins, but one of them has a lot more to play for. I'm talking about the Rams. This honestly benefits both teams with a Rams win here, as the Jets will get a better draft pick, while the Rams will get in a better position to win the NFC West. I think this Jets defense that has looked way better in recent years has not been as good this year, and a Rams offense consisting of Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, and Matthew Stafford will just do too much, and they will win the game, and the Rams will move to 9-6. Now, one of the most important games of the weekend, Philadelphia at Washington. Philadelphia with the opportunity to clinch the NFC East with a win, while Washington looks to stay alive, but also clinch a playoff spot this week. Lots on the line at Northwest Stadium, and Washington is coming off a win where they looked good in the first half against the Saints, but they fell off a bit in the second half, and they frankly disappeared and almost lost to the Saints. While Philadelphia is coming off another big win, and Philadelphia is a team I rank number 1 in my power rankings. There is a reason for that. Their offense is dynamic. Their defense is dynamic, and it's going to be the same here. I have Philadelphia beating the Commanders and clinching the division, while Philadelphia keeps their hopes alive for a 1 seed, barring a Detroit or Minnesota slip-up. And Philadelphia is going to continue to prove why they're a team that could definitely win the Super Bowl this season. Next up is Arizona at Carolina. 7-7 Arizona, 1 game back in the NFC West, while the Panthers were just eliminated officially last week. Even though Bryce Young was playing very well in recent weeks, he had a bad game this past week against the Cowboys, and maybe that's going to continue. And I just think Arizona is going to be a more hungry team. They have a lot more to play for. And just like this Rams-Jets game I just talked about, it benefits both teams as Arizona stays alive in the division with a win, while Carolina will get a better draft pick and secure a weapon for Bryce Young next season. Next up, we got Minnesota at Seattle, a very interesting game, as the visiting Minnesota Vikings are playing for the 1 seed right now. They're 12-2. They're tied for the division lead in the NFC North. And frankly, they have a lot to play for these last 3 weeks because a first-round bye would mean a lot for that Minnesota team. Meanwhile, the hosts, the Seattle Seahawks, are coming off a loss on Sunday night to the Packers and have now fallen into a tie with the LA Rams for the division. Geno Smith left that game early, but he is going to go this week, which is huge for the Seattle team. Maybe they'll get Kenneth Walker back this week, which is huge, even though Zach Charbonnet has done a great job. And I'm going to go with Minnesota to win this game, though. Frankly, just because I think this Minnesota defense is elite, and a Seattle offense that has looked shaky at times is going to get shut down in this game. And Minnesota, their offense is going to have a big day too. I think Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, to name a couple guys, will have a big day, and I think Minnesota will move to 13-2. Next up, New England at Buffalo. And no questions asked, I'm going to take the Bills here. They are the much better team. New England didn't really show anything on offense against Arizona last week, while Buffalo is playing on another level right now. I know they lost that game to the Rams. I know there's defensive concerns, but the way this offense is playing is almost unstoppable. Josh Allen is having an MVP-level season, and the last 3 games have proven that. And Buffalo is just the better football team. Now getting into 2 games between teams with losing records. First, a tank bowl type game. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 3-11 versus the Vegas Raiders at 2-12. And this game, both these teams don't want to win because at this point they're both tanking for picks. But I'm going to go with Jacksonville because Jacksonville is ultimately the better team. Brian Thomas looked really good this past week, and they want to see that growth from their first-round pick, as well as their other young guys in a season that is, at this point, been lost for some time now. So I'm going to take Jacksonville to move to 4-11, and Vegas to continue their pursuit of the first overall pick. Next, San Francisco at Miami. Loser season is officially over, and in this one, I'm going to go with Miami. San Francisco is lacking a running back. They are now missing their top 4 running backs due to injury. And ultimately, San Francisco is going to struggle to do anything on offense without a big rushing game, which has been their big point of success over these last couple of years. And Miami, their offense is going to have a good week. I believe it. I think Tua is going to bounce back from the interceptions, and they're going to move to 7-8 and stay alive. Now to conclude, we have the 2 primetime games on Sunday and Monday night. First, Tampa at Dallas. And this is an interesting game because Dallas is on their last leg for the season, while Tampa has won 4 in a row. Mike Evans had a big week versus the Chargers. Baker Mayfield is playing really well right now. And this Tampa team is on a roll at the right time. And I think it doesn't stop here. I think Tampa's going to score the points needed to win this game. Dallas, they've shown offensive inconsistencies, but at times their offense has been very good. But I don't think they're going to do enough to beat a Tampa Bay team, and Dallas will fall and suffer a season-ending loss. The final game, New Orleans at Green Bay. New Orleans is going to be missing likely Alvin Kamara, and they'll be starting Spencer Rattler at quarterback, while Green Bay is coming off a great win on Sunday night against the Seahawks. And I think Green Bay is going to win this one. I think their offense is turning it up at the right time. Jordan Love hasn't thrown an interception in 4 games, which was his biggest problem over the first half of the season. And this Green Bay team is going to clinch a playoff spot with a win this Monday night. But that's going to do it for this week's predictions. Make sure to leave a like. Make sure to share this with your friends. And remember that once I hit 250, I'm going to be doing a video talking to viewers about football. So make sure to share the channel, and I will see you guys for the next video.